You know, folks, I got really tired of standing in the grocery aisle and looking at labels, trying to figure out what's good for me. That's why I have a membership to Thrive Market. Thrive Market is a membership-based grocery service where you can shop from wherever you are. All you got to do is hop on their app. The membership breaks down to $5 a month, and it gives members access to weekly sales, personalized shopping with filters, auto ship and save, free gifts, and peace of mind, knowing there's no junk in any of the products they carry. Instead of paying fees on every grocery delivery order, you pay once for the year and benefit from it every time you shop. My wife and I order a lot from Thrive Market. Her favorite is the Smash Foods Raspberry Superfood Fruit Spread. She loves it. Now, my favorite are the crisps from the Good Crisp Company, specifically sour cream and onion. They're amazing. The simple fact that I can shop specifically for high protein or low sugar through filters makes the membership a no-brainer for me. Thrive Market gives you versions of all the foods you love with less sugar, fewer sketchy ingredients, and more nutrition. Ready to make some healthy swaps and become a member? Join Thrive Market with our link, thrivemarket.com/TCAT for 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 472 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well, man. How about you?
I'm doing awesome.
Yeah.
You and I are sitting in the new studio finally.
Yeah, I'm so stoked, man.
We've been talking about it. It's finally here. You know, if you're on Patreon, then you probably saw it yesterday, because we did our weekly Patreon video from the new studio. You know, if you're not on Patreon, now's a great time to sign up. But also, we recorded our second episode of TCAT for the week that we're going to start putting out, 2 episodes a week. That will come out Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So it'll be ready for everyone's commute Thursday or Friday or maybe even the weekend. But it's also up on YouTube as video, and then it's on, the regular podcast feed as audio. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, go out there, subscribe. Doesn't cost anything, but really helps us out.
Oh, I'm loving it, man. I haven't seen so much wood in one place outside of watching the gemstones.
Yeah, you did see a lot of wood in that.
Yeah, you did.
But you also have your own space. No longer can anybody say Gibby doesn't have a desk. Gibby doesn't have a nice chair. The setup is exactly the same.
I feel like I got a promotion.
Well, basically you did. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Roz Tron.
Hey, Roz.
Elizabeth Sperber.
Oh, the Sperber.
Tasha Kearney.
Hey, thanks, Kearney.
Niam D.
What up, D?
Tracy Nelson.
Hey, Nelson.
Lori Popesky.
Hey, Popesky.
Terry.
Well, good old Terry.
Danielle Shin.
Oh, there's Danielle.
And last but not least, Wanda Shepard jumped out at our highest level.
Wanda. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate the new support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Sarah Red.
Thanks, Sarah. You're awesome.
Yeah, appreciate that long-term support. Gibbs, we have an episode out right now on True Crime All the Time Unsolved where we're talking about Lester Eubanks. This is a man who was sentenced to death in 1965 for murder. His death sentence was commuted to life. And then he was able to charm his way into kind of the prison's honor program, which gave him the opportunity to escape in 1973. And this guy's been on the run ever since.
That's a long time to be on a run.
Yeah, he's on the U.S. Marshals Most Wanted list. So a little bit of a different type of unsolved for us. And maybe some of the folks that can't handle unsolved will like this one.
To me, it's kind of a mystery.
Yeah, because there's finality to the crimes he committed.
Right.
But then he's on the run. So I mentioned a new episode coming out every Thursday.
Yeah.
And the first one coming out this Thursday morning is on Libby Adame. And this is a woman who, along with her daughter, was essentially building up this social media, following by offering silicone butt injections at low prices. The problem is she wasn't licensed to do any of this. And the illegal procedures killed at least 3 women and disfigured dozens more.
That's why I always pay good money for my butt injections.
Yeah, and you should. But make sure you check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
I am.
Louis Davidson was a well-known emergency room doctor in the Tampa Bay area. In January 1994, Louis was brutally beaten and murdered in his own home. Investigators discovered a trail of evidence pointing to a person very well known to Louis, someone in his life. Denise Davidson was born in 1960 and grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. She was the third of 7 children. Denise was a finalist in the Miss Jamaica pageant and worked as a swimsuit and calendar model.
So something in common.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot of calendar work. Usually has the title Beefcake of something in it.
I was kind of referring to you and your swimsuit modeling days.
Oh, I did do some of that.
Yeah.
But you used to bring in these calendars, the beefcakes of, I don't know.
The good UPS days?
The Midwest, beefcakes of UPS. Nobody really wanted to see them, but you kept bringing them in anyway.
Well, we had a lot left over that nobody wanted to buy. We couldn't even give them away.
In the early 1980s, Denise started dating Louis Davidson, a medical student who was 5 years older than her. Louis was also raised in Kingston. Louis and Denise got married in August 1982 in Jamaica. The following year, they moved to Tampa, Florida. Their daughter, Natalie, was born in 1986. So Gibbs, I'm going to Jamaica this year.
You are.
My daughter is getting married there.
Yeah, Irie, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Denise stayed home with their daughter, and Louis became the head of the pediatric emergency room at Bayfront Medical Center in St. Petersburg.
Impressive.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty prestigious position.
Yeah.
Sounds like. Louis and Denise began having problems in their marriage and eventually separated. Louis moved into his own apartment in February 1991, according to the Tampa Tribune. And unfortunately, we've talked about it many times, right? This happens.
It does.
People get married with the best of intentions. Nobody gets married saying, we're not going to make it.
Well, that's a bad way to start one.
It is. Now, they might realize it sooner than others into the marriage, but, not all marriages are meant to be, and people do separate and ultimately divorce. Louis and Denise initiated divorce proceedings in October 1993. And it was said, Gibbs, that this was a really contentious divorce. There were allegations of physical violence, infidelity, and mental cruelty, as well as a custody battle over their daughter.
So some serious charges.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, when two people don't like each other anymore, the cruelty begins. I mean, just watch the original War of Roses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is that Danny DeVito and
Michael Douglas and Catherine, or can't remember her last name.
I know who you're talking about, but Danny DeVito, wasn't he in that too?
He was in it too, yeah.
Okay, I thought
don't know if he was one of the attorneys, I think.
But I think what can exacerbate it even more is a custody battle, right? A battle over the kids. We see that in a lot of cases.
Oh, yeah.
And it can turn ugly.
It can.
It seemed like both Louis and Denise had moved on romantically during the separation, Louis was engaged to his ER coworker, Patricia Denino. Denise was dating Leonardo Cisneros, whom she met on a trip home to Jamaica. Leo owned a bar and restaurant in Kingston. On January 25th, 1994, police officer Eli J. Hartzig was on patrol when he received a call about a dead body at the Thunder Bay Apartments in northern St. Petersburg. Once he arrived on the scene, he encountered Patricia Denino, who said the victim was her fiancé, Dr. Louis Davidson. And inside Louis's apartment was a very gruesome crime scene. Louis was found face down in a bathtub full of bloody water. He had been blindfolded, gagged, and his hands and feet were bound behind him with an electrical cord pulled from a vacuum cleaner.
Okay. It does sound brutal.
Yeah, that's a very nasty scene because you know that Louis is the victim. Went through just a horrible ordeal. His autopsy determined he suffered 3 broken ribs, bruises on his face, and multiple lacerations to the back of the head caused by a blunt object. And his cause of death was ruled as drowning.
I mean, when you hear this, when you look at this, this scene, at least for me, it doesn't jump out as a robbery, right? To me, it jumps out as somebody who's really pissed off at this guy.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because if you're only there to rob, do you really need to go through all of this? We kind of talk about it all the time. Could you not just tie people up? If you're wearing a mask or whatever, they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill them to get what you want. I think, there's further proof of that. Because even though the apartment appeared to have been ransacked, the intruder left behind a bag with over $19,000 in cash inside.
Well, if it's a robbery, you're not going to leave that behind, right?
No.
$19,000?
That is a lot of money. Investigators also found a footprint for a size 9 Voigt shoe in the front foyer of the apartment. Patricia told detectives she spoke to Louis in the morning. When she couldn't get a hold of him that afternoon, she went to his apartment and found his body. She reported that Louis had recently been receiving hang-up calls. Detectives suspected someone was trying to track his movements. So what do you think there with the hang-up calls? Trying to figure out if he's at home, not at home?
Yeah, I think so. Let me call this number. If he answers, I know his location. What you do with that, I don't know. Are you tracking data to determine when the best time is to go over there to catch him there?
Well, I think potentially you could, over a period of time, get to know somebody's schedule. If you knew what times they were home, you might get a sense of, okay, when do they leave for work? What time do they get home from work? Investigators soon learned about the contentious divorce and the ongoing custody battle with Denise, who had been threatening to move back to Jamaica with their daughter. Denise was interviewed at her home in Tampa soon after the murder. She claimed that she had no reason to want Louis dead because he was the father of her child. She also claimed that her boyfriend Leo was in Jamaica at the time of the murder. Now, obviously, Denise is going to be looked at. She is the soon-to-be ex-spouse, right?
Yeah.
They're going through this divorce. It's contentious. There's a custody battle going on. So, I mean, it's a little tough for her to claim that she had no reason to want Louis dead solely based on the fact that he was the father of her child. The custody battle alone could be a reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think the police have to dig into it a little bit, look at financials, look at potential life insurance, things like that.
Well, and they also have to look into Leo a little bit as well. When detectives looked into his background, they learned he was involved with drug posses in Jamaica.
Well, that's probably going to set some flags off.
Yeah, maybe he's not kind of walking the quote unquote straight and narrow, right? He's into some things that maybe would make it more likely that he might be able to be violent. Several years earlier, he was arrested during a traffic stop in Georgia, and a warrant was issued for trafficking narcotics. So, based on his past, investigators thought Leo was the type of person who would have at least known people willing to commit murder. And that makes sense to me. Maybe he wasn't a person who would commit it, but could he have known people who would have done it?
Yeah, for a little bit of money.
Denise was put under surveillance, and her financial records were subpoenaed. Detectives eventually learned that Denise was pregnant with Leo's child and that Louis had a life insurance policy worth $400,000, of which Denise was the beneficiary.
Okay, so now you have motive.
Well, even more motive, right? We talked about the custody.
Yeah.
But $400,000, that is a boatload of money.
It is.
And it's quite a bit of motive. In February, police released their first substantive lead in the investigation. Officers said they were looking for a man with a dark complexion who was seen outside Lewis's apartment between 10 a.m. and noon on January 25th. He was seen playing with a ball with a blonde woman who spoke in a British accent. This woman was also spotted in a foreign car, such as a Toyota or Nissan. She told a passerby her boyfriend was apartment hunting.
Yeah, what kind of British accent she had?
Oh my gosh. How come the British is the only part that comes out correctly? The rest of it always morphs into something unrecognizable.
Oh, I disagree.
That wasn't bad. Bank records showed that over the course of 6 months, Denise Davidson made 21 payments totaling $15,000 via Western Union to a man named Robert Roy Gordon and a woman named Carol Kaysen. Okay, your husband's been murdered, right? Your soon-to-be ex, but he's still her husband. They're going to tear apart your financial records. They're going to tear apart your life. They have to rule you out or rule you in. These 21 payments.
Yeah.
Why are you paying these people a total of $15,000 using Western Union?
I mean, it's suspicious. And I mean, if you're thinking, well, did she pay them to do this hit? I mean, $15,000 to get $400,000 plus custody and all that. That's pretty cheap.
Well, it turned out that Gordon was an associate of Leo's, and he had a criminal record. Gordon had been charged with rape and kidnapping in the past, but the charges were later dropped. Denise's phone record showed that she called a pager over 50 times on the morning of the murder. The mobile phone that returned the calls to her was one she purchased herself.
Huh.
Yeah, I think if you're the police, you're like, yeah, but also, okay, something is not adding up here. I mean, what else could you make of it? But she bought this burner phone or whatever it was, and gave it to the person she wanted to call her back when she paged. I mean, what other logical explanation is there really? You're not calling yourself.
No.
You're not paging yourself and then calling yourself back and saying, hey, did you page me? Yes, I did. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. Let's get lunch.
It's like you've eavesdropped on some of my conversations.
Well, they're not hard because you're having them with yourself just like that.
Yeah.
You know, folks, a well-built wardrobe is about pieces that work together and hold up over time. That's what Quint does best. Premium materials, thoughtful design, and everyday staples that feel easy to wear and easy to rely on, even as the weather shifts. Quint has the everyday essentials I love with the quality that lasts. Organic cotton sweaters, polos for every occasion, lighter jackets that keep you warm in the changing seasons. And the list just goes on. Quint works directly with top factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're not paying for brand markup, just quality clothing. Plus, they only partner with factories that meet rigorous standards for craftsmanship and ethical production. And that's a big deal for me. I am hooked on their flow knit performance wear. I just got a long-sleeved hoodie in the mail the other day, and it's all I want to wear. Everything we've ordered from Quint has been top-notch, and the prices are amazing. Refresh your wardrobe with Quint. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. Police traced this mobile phone from outside Lewis's apartment to a Days Inn on the other side of Tampa Bay. Witnesses at the Days Inn identified Robert Gordon and said he shared a room with a white woman with blonde hair. This woman, identified as Susan Shore, paid for the room with her real name. She told the desk clerk she didn't need a room to sleep in. She just needed to change clothes.
Oh, why is that?
Might be a question the desk clerk was thinking. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't ask, but it's strange, right? To rent a room that you're not going to stay the night in. Now, I get it. There are some, motels that kind of, I don't want to say rent rooms by the hour, but you know what I mean.
Are those the hotels that, or motels that you put the quarters in the little thing at the edge of the bed? It shakes the bed.
Well, there was a lot of motels back in the day that used to have those.
Yeah.
But
did you like those? How it shook the bed?
Yeah. I liked them. You seem to have a lot of knowledge of these motels that may or may not be rented by the hour.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
Exactly. Robert Gordon and Suzanne Shore were with another man who checked out in a hurry. They left behind several clothing items, which the hotel still had in Lost and Found. Among the clothing were a blood-stained pair of size 9 Voigt sneakers and a gray sweatshirt. The sneakers matched the shoe print found at the crime scene.
I've never heard of Voigt. Have you heard of Voigt?
Yeah. Voigt is, I don't even know if they're still around, but they used to be like a sporting goods. They made like tennis rackets.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't know they made shoes, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I thought they were more like on the tennis type side of things back in the day. Investigators also determined that the day before the murder, Denise used her credit card at the Walmart behind her house to purchase a pair of size 9 Voigt sneakers and a gray sweatshirt that was the same brand as the one found in the hotel room. Gibbs, if we could do one episode where somebody didn't have evidence that stacks up against them that comes from Walmart, Home Depot, or Lowe's, it would be a miracle.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
On February 28th, 1994, authorities arrested Robert Gordon in Miami and charged him with first-degree murder. Police claimed Gordon beat Louis on the head and drowned him in the tub. So, things are going south very quickly, right? Definitely for Robert Gordon, but you'd also have to say that Denise is in the crosshairs here.
I don't think she's feeling good about what's happening.
No, the evidence is stacking up against her as well. And you'd probably have to put Leo in that same boat as well. It was reported that witnesses at the apartment complex identified Gordon as the man lingering in the complex parking lot on the day of the murder. He was also identified by witnesses at the Tampa motel. At the time, police had not yet revealed the motive, and they were withholding a lot of details from the public.
Which is pretty common.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty standard procedure, right? In these cases that are solved, we don't make a big deal about it. I think where it does come into play is in some of our unsolved cases where 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years goes by and police are still holding those details. And it seems like details that could really help the investigation along.
Yeah, kind of like our unsolved last week.
Yes. Yeah, we actually saw it in that one. After Gordon was arrested, detectives went to the home of Carol Kaysen, the second individual who received payments from Denise, and found her with a man named Tony Bowens. However, a fingerprint check revealed his real name was Merrill McDonald, and McDonald had a warrant out for his arrest. On drug charges, Carol admitted to receiving money on his behalf, but police determined she had nothing to do with the murder. So my thought is, if you're Carol Kaysen, you're sweating. Police come at you. Hey, why did you get these payments from Denise? It ultimately comes out she did get them, but it was for somebody else. But before that was known or police bought that, she had to be sweating bullets, right?
Oh, she had to be. She definitely wasn't sleeping at night.
But due to a paperwork mix-up, McDonald was released. Before he could be charged with murder, he fled to New York, and he wasn't apprehended for months. And you do hear about that every now and then. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of paperwork involved. Things can go a little haywire. Wires can get crossed. But it's not like they're just going to say, oh, well, he's gone.
Right,
Yeah. They're going to track him down. Authorities searched Denise's home on March 2nd, but police wouldn't comment on what they were looking for. Denise's attorney, John Fitzgibbons, told the Tampa Tribune, the police seemed to be under a lot of pressure to solve this case, and it looks to me like they were snooping about, trying to find something that doesn't exist. Well, number one, I'm sure they were under a lot of pressure. I think police, by and large, are under pressure to solve every murder.
Yeah, that should be just a standard thing. We have an unsolved murder. Let's get it solved.
Denise's defense attorney noted that much of what was confiscated could have been subpoenaed from banks or the phone company. All right, that might be true.
I kind of think it's more impactful when it happens the way it happened, though.
Oh, like when you invade somebody's home and go through it. Yeah, oh, yeah. You think about the scene in Goodfellas when they kind of raid the home, right? Now, they were kind of calm and collected about it, I think, because they'd probably gone through it before. But, that's got to be a harrowing experience for most people.
Imagine if yours or my place got raided.
I can imagine your place getting raided. Not mine, because I'm pretty squeaky clean. You, however, live on the razor's edge.
Well, I can't deny.
Through wiretaps, police learned that Denise was considering fleeing the country. So if she didn't already have enough, making her look bad, when police find out that you're thinking about fleeing, okay.
That's just putting a big spotlight on yourself.
Yeah, it just makes you look guilty, even more guilty. On March 14th, 1994, Denise was arrested at the Tampa International Airport a few hours before boarding a flight to Jamaica. Officers stood behind her at the ticket counter, and they watched her purchase a one-way ticket. She was immediately arrested and charged with first-degree murder.
Wonder if they were on their little ear walkie-talkie thingies and said, after she purchased, swarm, swarm, swarm.
Maybe. I think the one-way ticket, though, right, it leaves little doubt as to your intentions.
Yeah, you could try to explain, well, I didn't know what date I wanted to come back on, so I left it open, but I think most people would say, no, you didn't plan on coming back at all.
But then your attorney is kind of left to craft a narrative for that. And Denise's attorney told the press that she had planned to fly home to visit her parents. She purchased the one-way ticket to Jamaica, but had made a reservation to return later in March. It was reported that Denise had recently left her sales manager job and left her daughter with friends who enrolled her in a school on the East Coast.
That's a big change.
That's a life-altering change. Both of those. Doesn't seem like somebody who is just going on a trip for a short period of time.
Yeah.
That seems like somebody who's making plans to be away for a long time and possibly never coming back.
Maybe felt placing her daughter with these friends was the best thing she could do for her daughter.
After the arrest, it was reported that the 55 calls Denise made on the day of the murder were to Robert Gordon's pager. She paid him before and after the murder.
Well, if that doesn't look suspicious, I don't know what does.
No, I mean, I think really the walls are closing in.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Court records showed that Leo Cisneros' fingerprints were also found on a Western Union money transfer receipt linked to the accused hitman, Robert Gordon. So Robert is Leo's connection. Denise is paying Robert, but there's also fingerprints of Leo's found. I think not too hard if you're the police, if you're the prosecutor, to put it together, right? Denise wanted it done, most likely reached out to her boyfriend, Leo. He knows this guy named Robert. So they're trying to put some distance, but they did a terrible job because the evidence connects them all back together.
Yeah.
Leo carried a cell phone that was often used to call Gordon's pager. Denise paid for the phone, but a friend told police she gave it to Leo to use. Court records also showed that when police searched Denise's home, they were looking for documentation involving Leo, Gordon, or Gordon's acquaintance, Carol Kaysen, who told authorities Gordon paid her to pick up money on his behalf. So why would you give someone money to pick up money from, let's say, a Western Union?
Well, because you're going to be nervous that there might be somebody waiting for you there.
Or possibly surveillance
Yeah.
or, something like that. On March 10th, police announced they were searching for Suzanne Shore, believed to be an accomplice in the murder. The Tampa Tribune reported that 2 weeks after the murder, Susan had been arrested in Dade County for drunk driving and leaving the scene of an accident, but she was released after posting bail. Although they didn't know her whereabouts, police didn't think she could have traveled far since she didn't have much money. Detectives also traveled to Jamaica to talk to Leo Cisneros. According to Mark DeCero, the detective who interviewed him, one of the interesting things that Leo said to us was, what would happen if I told you I sent somebody there to beat him up and they just got carried away?
That is an interesting thing to say.
Well, it's always interesting when somebody brings up a quasi hypothetical situation, because to me, it's almost like he's crafting a narrative or a defense. Yeah, I did send this guy there, but I only told him to beat the guy up.
Yeah.
He got carried away and he killed him. Now, I'll still get in trouble, but maybe I won't get murder.
Right.
That's what, to me, it seems like he's trying to do. It turns out that Susan Shore had traveled since her February arrest. On March 22nd, she was arrested in Port Royal, Jamaica. Susan immediately cooperated with investigators and claimed that she was an unknowing accomplice. She told authorities she befriended Robert Gordon and Merrill McDonald after meeting them at Hialeah Park Racing and Casino outside Miami. She didn't know anything about the murder, but agreed to drive them to Lewis's apartment for $100. After the murder, she drove the men back to the Days Inn Motel. Leo Cisneros and Denise Davidson later met them there.
Not sounding good.
Well, what I would say is you better be careful what you agree to do for money. Because let's just say this is true, and this woman knew nothing about the murder.
Yeah.
And somebody said to her, hey, will you take us there for $100 and drive us back, right? And then it later turns out that someone was murdered. Okay, you could potentially be charged with a serious crime.
Could be.
For being the driver.
It's definitely going to cause you some problems until you work things out with the police.
And they believe your story.
Yeah.
And maybe even then, even if they do believe it, you're probably going to have to cooperate to get out of charges, I would think they would hold that over your head.
Yeah, it's not like you were a Uber driver.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be harder, right, for police to kind of lump you in with all of these people.
Yeah.
Susan's statements allowed authorities to secure an arrest warrant for Leo, but by the time they got to Jamaica, he had fled the country. So I think he knew, Gibbs, that it was just a matter of time. They were on to him and they were going to come after him.
So he got out of Dodge.
In early May, authorities issued warrants for both Leo and Merrill McDonald, who they believed was involved in attacking and murdering Louis with Robert Gordon. On October 13th, Merrill was taken into custody in New York City. But by this time, Leo still hadn't been located. After the arrest, it was reported that hairs found on the bloody sweatshirt, recovered by police, matched McDonald, and fibers on the sweatshirt matched Lewis's green cashmere coat. The belt of that coat was used to tie his hands per the arrest affidavit. So, quite a bit of evidence, right, is piling up against these individuals.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, it's really mounting up against them.
Susan Shore was released on bond in January 1995. Papers announced that she agreed to testify against her co-offendants on the day of her arrest. Her attorney, Jim Martin, said Susan unwittingly drove these two guys, Gordon and McDonald, to St. Pete, thinking they were going to get a document, not kill some guy. And obviously that has to be her defense. I had no idea when I agreed to drive these guys to this place that they were going there to murder someone.
Right. Well, the best thing she could do is to turn around and work with the police on this one.
If you're tired of the run-of-the-mill banking experience, you got to check out Chime. Chime is changing the way people bank. It's smarter banking built for you. The old school banks, they charge you overdraft fees, monthly fees. Not Chime. Chime isn't just another banking app. They unlock smarter banking for everyday people with products like MyPay, giving you access to up to $500 of your paycheck anytime and getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Chime makes your everyday spending work harder by delivering real rewards and financial progress. It's rated 5 stars by US Today for customer service. You get real humans 24/7. I so wish Chime would have been around when I was younger. Man, this is the type of banking that I really could have benefited from. And the Chime card is a great way to build credit history with your own money and get rewarded every single day. No annual fees, no interest, no strings attached. Chime is not just smarter banking, it's the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today. It just takes a few minutes to sign up. Head to chime.com/TCAT. That is chime.com/TCATT.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services, a secured Chime Visa credit card, and MyPay line of credit provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. MyPay eligibility requirements apply, and credit limit ranges $20 to $500. Optional services and products may have fees or charges. See chime.com/fees info. Advertised annual percentage yield with Chime Plus status only. Otherwise, 1.00% APY applies. No min balance required. Chime card on-time payment history may have a positive impact on your credit score. Results may vary. See chime.com for details and applicable terms.
Prosecutor Fred Schaub agreed that no evidence had been found to refute this claim, and Susan had no knowledge a murder was going to be committed. He said his office would probably drop the first-degree murder charge against Susan in exchange for accessory after the fact. And that's still, a pretty serious charge.
I'm going to say that still has to sting, right?
Yeah, but it's nothing compared to first-degree murder.
Probably makes you a little bit nervous all those times you used to help me by driving me places.
Dude, I am nervous about everything you and I have ever done together because I don't know what you had done right before I drove you somewhere. I don't know what you did after.
You ever get nervous when you hear a knock at the door?
No, because I know I wittingly have never done anything wrong.
Oh, because I'd get nervous a lot.
I imagine you would. Robert Gordon and Merrill McDonald's trial started on June 7th, 1995. Denise Davidson was supposed to stand trial with them, but she received a separate trial because her lawyer was hospitalized in May due to a heart problem. The jury heard that at the time of his death, Louis Davidson had insurance worth $354,000 and that Denise was the beneficiary. Denise's boyfriend, Leo, who was still on the run, believed Louis was physically abusive to Denise.
Well, he's going to believe what he's been told. And maybe that's the truth, but at the end of the day, he's hearing it from one side of the party. So he's going to believe what this person that he's in love with is telling him.
But what does that mean? That he was willing to participate, or maybe a better word is facilitate the murder of Louis because, he was abusive towards Denise, or that he thought he might share in some of this $354,000 or a combination of both, maybe.
Well, I think if you've got to cross that line, I think in some individuals, crossing that line becomes a little bit easier if you can make the person that you're going to harm a bad guy, a bad person.
Oh, that does make a lot of sense to me.
And then also you see that you have this financial incentive coming in too, maybe.
That's almost like the cherry on top.
Exactly.
The jury also heard that in January 1994 alone, Denise made 232 calls to Robert Gordon's pager. 55 of those were made on the morning Louis was killed.
55 calls on the morning of? That's extreme.
Yeah, I keep telling you, man, I don't even know if I make 55 calls in a month to all the people I know.
I don't know if you make 55 calls a year.
I don't either. But I certainly can never imagine making 55 calls in a day to one person. Now, I get it. These were calls to pagers. And you know what that was like back then. You might have to send multiple messages or calls with your phone number to get somebody to return it. So
yeah,
it may be not that they had spoken 55 different times, but it still might point to the urgency of what they needed to talk about. And it just doesn't look good. The connection.
I would have threw the pager through the damn wall. There's a lot of pages coming.
If you were on the other end of it. While under surveillance, Denise was seen at a Western Union. Fingerprints and subpoenas for money transfer showed either she or Leo Cisneros wired over $14,000 to Robert Gordon between August 1993 and February 1994. Denise and Leo made the payments because they had hired the two defendants to kill Louis. They had two possible motives, right? The life insurance money and the custody battle. And those are two very big motives that we see crop up in a lot of cases.
Yeah, like you said, these are two strong motives. And then if you kind of add in the fact that Leo thought Denise was being abused too, that's got a little bit of motive there also.
Yeah, I don't think law enforcement or prosecutors are short on motive, right? They got plenty of different angles for motive. The prosecution described how Gordon and McDonald bound Louis's arms and legs with a vacuum cleaner cord and the belt of his coat. They beat him and wrapped his head in a towel and then drowned him in his bathtub. Beforehand, Gordon and Susan Short killed time by tossing a ball outside while waiting for Louis to come home. They left a bloody sweatshirt and sneakers at a motel in Tampa. Louis's blood was found on the sweatshirt, as well as fibers from his apartment's carpet, fibers from the coat belt used to tie him up, and McDonald's hairs.
When you say what you just said about them tossing the ball outside, I have this visual of like a really bad Hitman movie. Where they're outside the hotel, whatever, just, tossing the ball back and forth, bouncing or whatever. And they're like, oh, hey, he's pulling in. Let's go do what we got to do.
Yeah, almost like a C-grade movie or something that goes straight to DVD or straight to streaming. McDonald's lawyer argued that the fiber and hair evidence were not a direct match, only similar. He also suggested the sweatshirt was contaminated and noted that Leo, who was still missing, was hiding in the bathroom when the police went to Denise's house on the day of the murder. Gordon's lawyer presented an alibi defense, claiming Gordon was in Miami at the time of the murder. Lewis's fiancée, Patricia Danino, testified that he didn't want Denise to take their daughter to Jamaica, and she and Louis planned to seek custody after they got married.
I don't think anybody wants their kids to be taken to another country.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he thought she wouldn't bring her back.
Yeah.
But then there's also this revelation that Patricia and Louis planned to seek, custody of the daughter after they got married. Well, if Denise knew about that, I think you're just kind of delving further into the motive.
Absolutely.
Officers described how they began surveilling Denise the day after the murder. On January 27th, 1994, detectives watched Denise wire at least $5,200 as payment for the murder. During cross-examination, Detective Sandra Cummings was asked whether the Western Union workers who carried out 18 wire transactions described the customer as a man or a woman. Cummings said they described a man for about half of the transactions, and their description probably matched Leo Cisneros. Carol Kaysen testified that Merrill McDonald, whom she was in love with, asked her to pick up 2 Western Union money transfers in January and February of 1994. The money was sent by Jennifer Lee, an alias used by Denise.
Just with that, right? You're showing intent to deceive, right?
Or to facilitate this murder?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going back to these Western Union workers saying, well, we think it was, half the time a male, half the time a female. We already know Leo's fingerprints were found on some of these transfers. It's hard not to believe that the other half would have been done by Denise. Carol testified that Gordon used McDonald's cell phone. Records show the phone was purchased by Denise in December 1993 and was used to call Carol's house 82 times. These people are talking Gibbs a lot.
They are.
And maybe people listening are like, yeah, I talk on the phone a lot. I make a lot of calls. I do not. So this is kind of blowing me away.
Well, we said it before, right? What do you talk about so often? Like
the weather, what's been going on? No, to me, it sounds like you're talking about the plan.
Yeah.
And that's the reason for the need to speak so often is because, things are coming up. Questions have to be answered. Things have to be ironed out.
Make sure everything's going smooth.
Everybody has to be on the same page. In late January 1994, Carol went to the racetrack with McDonald. Gordon was there with a woman matching Susan Shore's description. A few weeks later, Carol changed her phone number because she received 2 collect calls from a man named Leo in Jamaica. According to Carol, per the Tampa Tribune, he said he was angry, and he was saying he didn't want to be in the middle of this. I couldn't understand it.
Cold feet.
Maybe. I know personally I wouldn't be accepting any collect calls from Jamaica or any country or really any collect calls, period. I wouldn't accept any from the U.S. either, but.
Well, you didn't accept mine until I finally, that's why I had to get the unlimited package, back in the day when we first started, you had to pay for phone calls. So I would always try to call you.
Like per call, per minute type deal?
Yeah. So I call you collect and you would not accept. Even when I worked for you back in the day, I think you just didn't want me to call in sick, but I would try, No, I just wanted you to stop being such a cheap ass. You had money. You can pay for your own calls. Well, think about what I did here.
And that continues to this day.
Think about what I did here with this new studio.
You paid for none of it. And you did none of the work.
But it looks good, man.
The prosecution alleged that the defendants made several test runs before committing the murder. 3 witnesses would testify that they accompanied the men to Tampa and St. Petersburg 3 times. Susan Shore testified that in the fall of 1993, she was unemployed, broke, living with friends, and trying to make money on horse betting. She met Robert Gordon and Merrill McDonald at the racetrack, and they asked her to drive them from Miami to Tampa to get a document from a friend.
You know, I'm just going to say, if you're trying to make a living on the horses, it's typically not the best way to go.
No, I wouldn't think so. Especially when you're already unemployed, broke, kind of laying it all out on the horses does not seem like the way to turn things around.
No, I mean, maybe you get lucky and find out that the horse, is a mutter and his mom was a mutter, but it's a rainy day. You might come out okay.
His mother was a mutter, but his father was a mutter.
Yeah.
Susan recalled that after her arrest, she said she would testify against the men that put me in this terrible, terrible ordeal. And I don't know how she couldn't. She's trying to save her own hide.
Well, of course.
She testified that she drove the men from Miami to Tampa. On January 24th, 1994, she said, I asked how much they would pay me, and they said they would set me straight. After spending the night in a motel, she drove them to the apartment complex. They said they were going to see a friend. McDonald said he was going jogging, and she and Gordon talked, walked around a lake, and threw a baseball. 30 minutes later, Gordon saw his friend arrive and told her to wait in the car. Gordon approached Louis, talked to him, and followed him to a stairwell. She didn't see McDonald, but did see a shadow in the stairwell. Gordon returned to the car 20 minutes later, followed by McDonald about 10 minutes later. She didn't see any blood on them, and it didn't seem like they had exerted themselves. She didn't suspect anything until they went to a Days Inn to change clothes, and Leo Cisneros arrived and talked to the men. He left and brought back a woman she later learned was Denise Davidson. She could sense the tension and became nervous.
I'm sure there was a lot of tension.
Yeah, I'm sure there was too. I mean, I think that Susan is very interesting from the standpoint that, if what she's saying is correct, she had no idea what was going to happen. She was just broke, and someone offered her money to drive them.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know if that's 100% correct. We already said that, prosecutors said they didn't have any evidence to refute her claim. In closing arguments, both defense attorneys claimed Leo Cisneros set the defendants up and carried out the murder himself. On June 15th, 1995, Robert Gordon and Merrill McDonald were found guilty of first-degree murder. The following day, the jury recommended the death penalty. And then Denise's trial started on September 6th, 1995. The prosecution emphasized that Denise was a principal in the crime, and she and her boyfriend hired the 2 killers, which would be proven through phone records and money transfers.
Well, I mean, they had that pretty solid evidence there.
They did. They claimed that Denise wanted to end the custody battle over their daughter and stood to collect up to $500,000 in insurance benefits. Her defense told the jury this cast of characters took advantage of Denise Davidson being blind and in love. The defense noted that Louis was paying Denise's mortgage, household expenses, a monthly allowance of $1,300, and bought her a $30,000 car. She didn't know about the insurance, and it was a typical divorce. Her attorney added, as quoted by the Tampa Tribune, Louis Davidson was worth more money alive to Denise than anything else.
Well, they have to put up some type of defense, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I do think a lot of the time you hear this, the person was worth more alive than dead, right? Basically saying, why would this person want their spouse killed? Because they would be worse off financially. But to me, Gibbs, that's not the case here. If there really was, almost $500,000 in insurance benefits, that's a lot of money. I get it. He was paying her mortgage. There was about a $1,300 a month payment, paying some household expenses. But, that compared to $500,000, it's hard to make that argument. I think.
It is.
Plus, he'd already bought her the $30,000 car, so she already had that.
Well, that's true.
Denise met Leo when she went to Jamaica during the separation. He was charming, and he took advantage of her by scheming behind her back and using her money to hire the hitman. And again, this is all the defense, right?
Right.
Detective Michael Salona testified that Denise lied repeatedly when she was questioned after the murder. She was interviewed 3 times. On January 27th, she said Leo was in Jamaica on the day of the murder. She later admitted he was in her home. And we talked about it, right? It was thought that he was hiding in a bathroom while police talked to her. When questioned on February 15th, Denise said she didn't know about any insurance policies Louis had, despite the fact that an insurance agent spoke to her the day before. She denied ever hearing of Robert Gordon when questioned almost a month after the murder, but money transfers proved otherwise. When confronted with the evidence, Denise said the money was for car parts and a truck Leo was buying. Later, she said the money was being used to buy land in Jamaica.
When your statements are inconsistent, it's always going to be a problem for you.
It is. And to me, what's an even bigger problem is when your statements are proven to be false, and then you later have to come up with different statements.
Yeah.
Inconsistency is one thing, but them being proven false to me is even worse.
Oh, I agree with you.
And you're essentially lying.
Yeah.
And then you're just coming up with something different because it's CYA at that point. Testifying in her own defense, Denise denied hiring Gordon and McDonald to kill Louis. She acknowledged wiring Gordon thousands of dollars and talking to McDonald, but she thought, Gibbs, that she was investing $10,000, which came from a civil case stemming from a dog bite she suffered, into Leo's car parts and truck import business. So it's like we always talk about, right?
Yeah.
You've got to come up with a story that at least in some way lines up with the evidence against you. Now, does it? It's tough. It's tough to buy.
Yeah, it's not really believable to me, but
she was asked why she did everything Leo told her and responded that if she questioned him, he told her to trust him and not to worry. The prosecutor confronted Denise with a recording of herself saying, "You'll be sorry, Denise," in a sinister voice. She made the call from her workplace to her home, and she was accused of trying to divert police attention. Now, Denise wouldn't confirm the voice was hers and claimed she didn't remember the call. She claimed 2 men were following her, and she feared she was being targeted by a posse because she later suspected Leo, Gordon, and McDonald were involved in drugs.
The old drug posse.
But that's like something you'd see in a movie, right? You're calling yourself at home, leaving a threatening voicemail, let's say, disguising your voice, but the police know it's you. But you're saying, no, that's not me. Didn't do that.
And they're like, no, actually, we can tell it's you.
She denied ever seeing Susan Shore come into her workplace with McDonald the day before the murder, as Susan had testified. She admitted to going with Leo to a motel in Tampa where the hitmen and Susan were staying, but it was only to use the bathroom because she was suffering from morning sickness due to her pregnancy.
Well, I mean, she was pregnant.
And morning sickness is rough.
But that's just a small piece of all this puzzle.
It is, but that still doesn't make sense to me. Okay, you have to use the restroom. I understand that. But you are solving that problem by going to a motel where the hitmen are staying?
I mean, you could stop anywhere.
You could stop at a McDonald's, at a gas station, one of those Buc-ee's or Pilots. Sometimes they have really nice restrooms.
Well, yeah, I know. I stop off the Loves. They have nice bathrooms.
Why do you say it like that?
Because that's how you say it.
Loves.
That's how you say it, man.
Okay.
Loves.
It just seems strange, right? To drive to a motel with the express purpose of going to the bathroom, and it just so happens it's the motel where the hitmen are staying. But again, right, it's that point of you have to explain why you're there.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to do your best that you can to make sense of every movement you made.
On September 16th, Denise was found guilty of first-degree murder. On the 25th, the jury sentenced her to life in prison with a mandatory 25 years. Denise said in a prepared statement, "I'm not a murderer. I will forever claim my innocence. To be found guilty of first-degree murder is very unfair." You know how few murderers say that, yeah, this was pretty fair. You got me.
None.
You got me. I have to agree with everything.
Yeah.
On September 28th, Susan Shore pleaded no contest to accessory after the fact and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. However, her sentence would end once she left the United States. Susan was originally from England. She was set to leave the U.S. on September 30th. And, I think I would leave too. 3 years probation, it's not the best thing in the world.
No.
But it's not the end of the world either.
Absolutely not. I mean, who hasn't been on probation at least once in their life?
I am now raising my hand because I have not been. I also have never had to wear an ankle monitor. But, if her story is really true and she was just, driving for money, okay, I get it. It's tough to really blame her all that much. And then there's the fact that, she could just go back to England in a couple of days and basically she's out from under all of it.
Well, that's true.
As of 2026, Denise Davidson is still incarcerated in Florida. Robert Gordon and Merrill McDonald remain on Florida's death row. According to a 2021 article by Oxygen, Leo Cisneros' whereabouts are still unknown. There is still a warrant out for his arrest, charging him with first-degree murder. And, you have to think, Gibbs, he's most likely somewhere, if not in Jamaica, he's definitely probably in a country far away from the U.S.
I would think so.
And that's probably making it tougher to catch him. He might even be in a country with, no extradition treaty. If he was smart, that's where he'd be. But as we wrap this one up, again, how many cases come down to greed and or custody battle, especially when you're talking about a spouse murdering or paying to murder their spouse? And I would say quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Because money and custody are two big time motivations.
It really is.
I guess with this one, everything's pretty neatly wrapped up, tied up with a bow, with the exception of Leo Cisneros, because I don't think there's any doubt he played a big time role, right? He was the connection to the people who ultimately killed Louis. It might have been at the behest of Denise, and most likely was. He also is thought to have made some or maybe half of the Western Union payments. So there's no doubt that he's got a lot of culpability here. But until they can find this guy, he's going to be out there living his life. Now, it might not be a great one. He might, he's on the run. So he can't be as free as he would like to be.
And think, she was pregnant with his baby. So I don't know whatever happened there, but I'm assuming she had, the birth, and that baby is out there without their dad, without their mom really in their life. And then you have the daughter that has no mom or dad because obviously the dad was murdered and the mom is sitting in prison.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just shows you how many lives are wrecked by these stupid decisions. And I don't know what other word to use. I mean, this is just plain stupid in my opinion.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's a tragedy that didn't need to happen. And now all these individuals have to pay the ultimate price.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's it for our episode on the murder of Dr. Louis Davidson. We got a voicemail, Gibbs. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Blake from Athens, Georgia. I was just calling because I had a question. When I first heard about the Idaho 4 killings about 3 years ago, I was like, oh man, I would love to hear a podcast episode about that, but I'm sure that'll get, tacked onto the bottom of y'all's laundry list of things. But to my surprise, a couple weeks ago, y'all actually did an episode on that. So I just had a question. How do you choose which episodes to do? And is it metric based? Like, are you trying to get the most traction possible, like the most people coming to listen to the podcast, or if it's just whatever you guys feel like doing in the moment and it's just all personal? So just let me know, and thanks. And as always, keep your own time ticking. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Blake, we have a wheel that we spin, and whatever it lands on is what we do.
That is absolutely 100% not correct. But it is a good question, and I appreciate the voicemail. I would say this, Gibbs. We do try to do a mix of more well-known cases and lesser-known cases. It's always about, what do people want to hear?
Sure.
But that's not the same for everyone, right? Some people only want to hear about the really big ones. Some people are more fascinated by the ones they've never heard about at all. So we just try to do a mix. And part of that is, what kind of jumps out to us as super interesting? What has like components that are fascinating?
And sometimes people want to hear the most recent one, but we got to be a little careful jumping right into something that just occurred because we want to wait to make sure all the facts come out.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why we waited so long, to tackle the, Idaho murders. But yeah, I think that's my answer.
That's a good answer.
All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.